Hello, welcome to the Brand Bravery podcast. I'm Amy Purdy, the Brand Explorer, and I am here to help inspire you to bravely overcome your challenges on your business journey by hearing how others overcome theirs, pushing forward and taking the next step, whatever that needs to be at the time.
It's a brand new adventure for your business journey.
Shelley has worked as a teacher and SEND support, and she now has her own ADHD diagnosis, which came about following the diagnosis of her son, Dan, with ADHD and autism as well. She is passionate about supporting families with ADHD or autistic young people to better understand the young person better as an individual, with their strengths as their struggles, and communicate in a way that invites collaboration and creates a stronger connection, which is something she is so passionate about. Her business is called Connexions because connection is so critical in her view to helping you to remove that powerless feeling as a parent or a carer of the young person and make life better at home. This is a really great interview where Shelley talks about her willingness to be more visible and about procrastination and paralysis and all the things that make building a business really challenging. She is such an interesting lady. I'm sure you're going to enjoy this. So I think it would be really great to start from when you were teaching, because I think that would be quite interesting, because you were actually teaching SEN, weren't you?
Yeah. Right in the beginning, I was a general class teacher and very quickly realised that wasn't really where my heart lay, because I think now that I know what I know about myself, I understand that was really overwhelming to me. But working in small groups, working with individual children, knowing that I could make some kind of real difference for them, that was what I really loved doing. So kind of got out of classroom teaching quite quickly and went more into the teaching assistant role, and very quickly into the SEN role and supporting those children, their parents, kind of working with them. And that was definitely where I loved being in a school most of all.
Yeah, and then you felt like you were really flourishing and stepping into doing something that was meaningful.
Yeah.
Not that the other things weren't meaningful, but meaningful to you.
Yeah. I think it just felt like a much more rewarding connection in a way. Just establishing that real relationship with a child and knowing that, you were there for them, you could make a difference for them. That for me was really rewarding.
Yeah. And then you have ADHD. So you said just before that you discovered that after you'd been helping people who have ADHD and other neurodiversities. So how did that come around?
It happened even after I had kind of worked with my son through a lot of his diagnosis and doing a lot of research as far as that went. As I said before, knowing what I know now, referring to the fact that big classroom situation, 30 little people demanding my attention all at the same time, I found that very overwhelming. And I now know that, due to the way that my brain works, I much prefer that small group environment. I was diagnosed with ADHD just last year. So just at the ripe old age of 50 at the time. Just a whole lot of things made sense for me then, because I could then understand, I found that classroom environment too overwhelming. The reason I left the preparation for my 6-week teacher training practical until about 2 days before I actually started, and then literally had 6 weeks of 3 o'clock bedtime, 6 o'clock waking time, and just felt like I was dying in the process.
Yeah, you would.
But I understood why my brain went to that and why that kind of procrastination and paralysis and all of that kind of set in. So it explained a lot about a lot of things to me. Also the reason why I can easily get overwhelmed with things, in business. I think that's when it really came to the fore, when I was running my own business again, because I've had that a couple of times in the past and given up on it because I was too overwhelmed. So it made a lot of sense now. And that understanding helped me then to push through, seek support, and actually do something positive rather than just go, I must be rubbish at running a business, let me give up on this. So it's definitely helped me to get through that.
Yeah. So we just jumped there, like right from the beginning to last year. Lots of
Yeah.
things happened in the middle. So you had a son,
Uh-huh.
and he's ADHD and he's autistic,
Yeah.
and you discovered that before you discovered that you had ADHD, and then you
Yeah.
started Complex Connections. But all these other things happened in the middle. So do you want to go back to the time? Wait, can I say his name? Sorry, I should have asked you
Yeah,
earlier.
of course.
When
Yeah.
when Dan had when you discovered that Dan had ADHD, because that happened first, didn't it? And
Yeah.
how you realised that.
Yeah, that took a while as well, because I think the anxiety was the first thing to show up when he was around about 6 or 7, and became very anxious in school particularly, but we started seeing the repercussions of that at home. He was referred to quite a few mental health professionals, didn't really understand what was going on with the anxiety, kind of managing at school, although when you look back you can pick up things that he was struggling with. Nobody ever mentioned ADHD, and you would have thought, being a teacher, I had some knowledge, but I didn't really have much knowledge, so I didn't pick up on it, until we watched a BBC program one day, and there was a young girl on there who was around about 11. She was being interviewed and she had ADHD. And honestly and truly, I can say it was a light bulb moment, because my husband Wayne was there with me, and we kind of looked at each other and went, oh my goodness, that's Daniel to a T. So that kind of went from there, asked for a referral, but we all know how long that takes. So he was only diagnosed with ADHD at age 11. They ruled out autism then and said he wasn't autistic, but he then got that diagnosis when he was 15. So he's a really good masker, and kind of, for the most part, I think we did get the, things in class and that, but I think the autism was a lot more difficult to spot, but definitely played a huge role in how he was struggling, especially at high school. That's how that came about. Just the whole kind of 5-day, full day week, the people, the environment, all of that was a real struggle for him. So yeah, he has those diagnoses now. It's been really positive in that we understand more of what's going on, although just having a diagnosis doesn't give you that understanding. That's just the starting point, but it definitely helped us to understand more. But I also remember those many years where I felt so confused and so overwhelmed, because I didn't know what was going on. I didn't understand why he was behaving in that way, why certain things were so difficult for him, why going to certain places had such a negative reaction from him, and why he was struggling. And, I was brought up in a traditional way. I had parented my daughter Jess, who's older than Daniel, in a traditional way, but realized very quickly that those behaviorist kind of views of change the behavior, impose consequences, all of that kind of thing was not working at all for Daniel. So knew that I needed to find a different way. And almost it was such a re-education of everything that I knew how to do, in kind of working much more for, let's look at what's actually going on beneath the behavior, rather than just trying to change the behavior. Let's figure out what the need is beneath that. And that was a massive change for our family. And we had become really disconnected, because there were lots of meltdowns, arguments, all that confusion. Wayne didn't understand, I didn't understand. It just caused a lot of conflict. But once we were able to, and it wasn't an overnight switch, it's still a learning process, but once we were able to change our perspective and see things differently, then we could focus on maintaining that connection first and foremost, by understanding and doing things differently. I think parents sometimes don't realize that tiny change on their part sets up a whole different dynamic. And that's what we saw.
Yeah.
As soon as we did things a little bit differently, or just said things in a different way, it evoked a different response from Daniel. And then it's a different cycle. It's not that spiral every time, or, it just meant that he could respond differently. He felt more heard, and it meant that that relationship began to be rebuilt. And I can honestly say that we have a really great connection now. And that doesn't mean that we don't have challenges. We still have lots of challenges, but we deal with them differently and we approach them differently. And sometimes I still go back to that point of not understanding and being confused, but I know that if I just understand it differently, and if I talk to him, that's the biggest thing, not just try and do it myself, get involved, seek support, then I'll be able to do things differently, and that changes the whole thing. So yeah, it's been a huge learning curve. I'm still on that journey.
I'm sure you will be forever.
As a parent.
I think what's really good about this is you went away and did learning and tried your best to understand and discover what was going on and how to approach Daniel in a different way and how to be the best parent you could possibly be for him, which hopefully is something that all parents in the same situation would do. But you didn't just stop there. You thought, this is something that I need to share with other people who are also struggling, because when you get the diagnosis, you don't get anything, do you? You just sort of abandoned, and the support that is there isn't all that brilliant. So you noticed that there was this huge gap, and you realised that you could fill it instead of like keeping all this to yourself. You were like, I'm going to help people. And I think that's absolutely wonderful. So was there some sort of reason why you decided that you were going to do that, or was it just because you're an awesome person? Which you are.
I don't remember a specific time at which I kind of went, but I almost do remember doing a course. It was an American course that I did first, and having that light bulb moment for myself. And then they offered facilitator training, so I could train to be a facilitator of their course, which wasn't in the UK at that time. So I kind of did that in the UK, and for me it was just that. This is such an opportunity to share this idea with people, because it had helped me so much. So yeah, and I think I've always been a bit of an entrepreneur at heart, as I say, trying different businesses as I went along and not really succeeding. But yeah, always kind of wanted to get back to that. So this was an opportunity to do something to share what I had learned with other parents. And yeah, it's been brilliant. I absolutely love doing it. And I think when I then worked with the children in school, and I saw that so many parents felt exactly the way that I had felt, and sometimes when you feel that way, you think it must just be you. So it was really comforting to me in a way to know that it wasn't just lots of parents felt like that, but there was something they could do. It's to take away that feeling of being so powerless, and not knowing what you can do for your child. I think it puts parents back in the driving seat and gives them confidence.
Yeah, which we all need so much. So do you want to share a little bit more about your Connect programme and your Connexions community, so people can hear more about what you do from you instead of my introduction?
I would love to, thank you. So the Connect programme is a series of 6 workshops. We meet once every week. It's always a small group, so we get to know each other and feel safe in that space. And we just work through a course that I've created where we look at exactly the understanding. Let's understand more about ourselves and about our young person. Let's communicate differently, and then let's make sure that connection is at the foundation of everything. So we work through those 6 workshops, and then I've decided to create an online community. It's not up and running yet, but hopefully will be soon, where parents can then do the course. They're going to have the option to do it online or in person. Not in person, but live or as a digital thing. But then they'll also have access to ongoing support, because I think what I've come to realize is that 6 weeks is a very short time, and parents are kind of just starting their journey there, and a lot of them want another place to continue that. So creating the community where we can meet up on Zoom, we can have chats, questions and answers, webinars, and give that community feel, so that parents know that they are truly understood there as well. As much as their child needs to be heard, they need to be heard as well. So it's a place for them to feel supported, to be able to go, and I'm hoping to have some other professionals in that community, so that there might be other things once they've done the course. There'd be other things that they'd like to investigate for their child or for themselves. Looking after themselves is going to be a big feature of that as well, because I truly believe that parents are at the core of it, and they need to fill their own cup. So making sure that they feel supported is really important to me.
Yes, I agree. I think, as you know, I've done your course and it is amazing, and it's not it's not that the focus is all on the child, which obviously is the reason you're doing the course, but you start, it was a little while ago now, you start with the parents, don't you? And that makes I feel like that's quite a good grounding to sort of get us all set up in the right place to learn the things we need to learn. And the other thing is, when you're talking about support, I think a lot of the time you do a course, don't you? And then it's like gets in your head, and it's sort of you change things without necessarily thinking about it, but then you sort of realise that actually you've changed that because you learnt this when you did that in the first place, and it's like a filter down. And just to be able to go and share a bit more about that and talk about that a bit later on, I think that would be very valuable. Your community might exist by the time this podcast goes out. So if so, I will put it in the show notes and people can go and find the link. I think it's so valuable, isn't it, to be able to go and share all of this with other people. And what was the journey like to get to the point you're at now, where you have these courses with people, and I know that lots of people have done them as well and talk about it very warmly, knowing that it's made a difference. How was that journey to do that, all the tech and the scheduling things and workbooks and telling people about it, all the marketing? How was that? Because all of that's quite brave as well. All of these different steps we have to take as business owners in order for people to know about what we do in the first place, and put it all together. It's a challenge sometimes.
Definitely. That's been the toughest part, I would say, the learning. I'm obviously not of that tech generation. So learning the tech, social media, putting myself out there has been the biggest challenge for me. That definitely, I've come a long way with that. When I look back now, I can see I've come a long way. Sometimes in the moment, it doesn't feel like you've come very far at all. But I think it's putting myself out there and being visible is not my natural kind of way of doing things. As much as I absolutely love being in a small workshop, putting myself on social media is not my favorite thing to do. But I think for me, the branding journey, which I've done with you, has been a massive part of that willingness to be more visible, because, I've told you, kind of delving into your values and what lies beneath it has been so, so important in kind of building up even my understanding of what my brand was all about. The graphics are really important to me. I'm a very visual person. So when I can see something as a picture, it just clarifies everything in my head, and it gives me that confidence to be able to talk to other people about it. So the branding part, which you've been a huge part of, has been amazing. And that, I would say, that's been at the core of everything. I think without that branding, without those visuals and that whole journey, I think I might be in a different place, or I'm not really sure where I'd be, but I think that has helped me clarify everything so much more. But I still have days where the tech is just overwhelming, and trying to set up this platform for my online community. Oh my goodness. But it's a good reminder, because I do tutoring as well. So for me to go through that struggle, and I describe it to my tutoring students as trying to walk through a very muddy puddle. You're deep in that mud and it feels so uncomfortable, but actually you're learning as you're going. So it's good for us as adults to experience that, because sometimes we forget. And then when children are struggling with their learning, we can't really relate to that. So it's nice to be able to have had that experience recently and be able to go, I know that's really tough. It feels awful, but we'll come out the other side.
Yeah, but I think when you were saying that, it made me smile, because I was thinking, like, today I'm wearing canvas shoes. I haven't worn canvas shoes since last summer. It's not even that summery today. But so usually when we walk to school, we cut across the grass. And I said to my son today, I said, I'm wearing canvas shoes, can't cut across the grass today, because it'd been raining last night. And I think, when you're walking through that muddy puddle, your footwear is really important as well. So you can be wearing wellies. Like, it depends how much preparation you've had, how much learning you've done before you have to walk through the puddle. And if you're wearing the right footwear, then you're going to be even more equipped and get through it quicker. Which is what
I love that analogy.
Whereas I know, I've only just thought of it. Whereas if you're wearing canvas shoes like me today, and you have to walk through a muddy puddle, it's going to be a very different experience, and you're far less prepared. And when you get to the other side, it's going to be a lot messier. So I think you're putting people's wellies on.
Oh, I love that. I
Which
just
is
love
good. You
that
can use that with
analogy.
your map.
Please, can I use that? That's fabulous. Yeah, and absolutely. The preparation you have, the tools that you have available, isn't it? It's exactly like
Yeah.
that. Your footwear, your preparation, yeah, it makes such a difference. And I think that's the thing is that I definitely, whenever I go back to that confusion, I've got better tools now. So it might be that I'm confused for a while or overwhelmed for a while, but I get back to that connection
Yeah.
much more simply and much more easily now, which is fabulous. So yeah, I hope
Yeah.
that other parents feel that they gain those tools as well and that bit of understanding. And it's never an exact science, is it? Human relationships and that it's very messy and it can be very the path is never straight all of the time. We just have to go with what we. But like you say, when we're prepared and when we understand more, it makes a big difference.
Yeah, and connection is obviously like the key thing for you, and your business is called Complex Connections.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk to us a little bit about why you chose to call it Complex Connections and what that word means to you?
Yeah, I think connection to me has relationships and, like I said before, one-to-one connection has always been really important to me. But those connections, parenting connections with our children are difficult anyway, can be difficult anyway. They're complex for sure. Difficult's not a very nice word, but they can be complex. But when you add in those layers of ADHD or autism or some kind of additional needs, and then you add in judgment from other people and that sort of thing, it can feel additionally complex. And I think as much as I try to help parents see the positives and see the strengths in their children, which are absolutely there, what I never want to dismiss is the difficulties because, I don't want people to feel like they're being overly dramatic or they're not, they should be able to do things differently. It is difficult, it is complex. So we need to acknowledge that, but at the same time, look for the positives and find ways to get through those things.
Definitely. Yeah, I love that. And I think that connection is something, as I was saying at the beginning of this, when we were chatting, wasn't it? I feel like it flows for you through everything. It isn't just like the name of your course. It's the name of your business, for both of those things. It's everything about you as Shelley. Like connection really matters all the way through everything that you do in your business and in your life. I feel like it's just it sums you up perfectly. Do you think that happened before you started Complex Connections, or do you think you've always been a connections-based person?
I think I gained a lot more confidence to make those connections after I started my business. I think the growth journey for me in becoming a small business owner has been huge. And I think I've gained more confidence to make those connections. I definitely know 10 years ago, I would have really struggled to go to a networking event where I didn't know anybody. Or to reach out to people that I didn't specifically know. So I think, but I think when you have something that you want to share and you're passionate about and you're willing to reach out and make those connections in a different way. I think connections have always been important, but I definitely feel like I've got a lot more confidence to do that now. And the connections that you can make when you do reach out is amazing. There's so many people doing such brilliant things, but to actually get to know them and understand their story and I'm a very nosy person in a way because I love to understand everything about different people. So I tend to, if I meet somebody, I want to know lots and lots about them. But yeah, just doing that, I think it very much speaks of collaboration. And living in the Northeast, the business community is quite small. So you go to one networking event and you meet these people, and you go somewhere else and you meet similar people or the same people again. And it's just fabulous. You feel part of a real network. Of people
I agree.
doing amazing things.
Yeah, I really agree with that. And I love what you said about how you earlier on when we were talking about your brand, you said you gained a lot of clarity through the strategy process of that, which is great. But then you were talking about having more confidence to make connections and to be braver. And for me, brand bravery, which is obviously the name of this podcast, is all about it's clarity and connection equals brand bravery. That's like my little what's the word for a sum, but that sounds fancier? You should know this.
Oh
no. Equation is the word I'm looking for. It's my equation. And so I think that's really shown that, and I love that because it's showing that you've got the clarity from your strategy and from working through everything that you've worked through. It's not all me. That sounds really big-headed. It's not. That was just the point I was making, that you said it from there. But no, you've got the clarity from all of the things that you've done within your business. And then you've gained extra confidence from starting your business and calling it Complex Connections and really focusing on connection. And that's given you that bravery to step out and do the things like networking and like making videos, which are uncomfortable.
Yes.
And I think that's wonderful because that's exactly what it's all about. It's all about getting to that point where you can get out and have that passion to tell people about what it is that you do and kind of rise above all of the uncomfortable feelings that you might have about the things you need to do to make those things happen. So that's really good to hear, and quite inspiring and motivating, really, that we can all reach that if we just get some more clarity and work on how to be more confident about sharing our business, then we'll all be able to do it. So that's awesome. So you were going to share a tip, which I think we can probably vaguely guess.
Yes, I'll do a connection. I always say to parents, in the toughest of times, or in the best of times, just focus on that connection. Everything else will come if you just focus on that relationship, and on, just creating that space where your young person feels that they matter, that they belong, that they're accepted. Everything else will come along with that. Understanding helps you to get there. Communication helps you, but those will be part and parcel of that. But if you just focus on that connection, just be with them and connect with them, that to me is the most important point. And that has got me through some difficult times, difficult parenting times, where it's just let go of the other things, just be connected.
Yeah, which is just the best thing to do, definitely. And certainly for me, I feel like the best times with my kids are when we connect more through, I guess, the stuff that they get excited about, isn't it?
Exactly. It doesn't have to be grand, does it? It can be the tiniest little simple thing. Most often that's what it is. It's those tiny moments and those little simple ways of connecting. It doesn't have to be a big grand gesture. And that's the best part about it. And that's what children remember, isn't it? That's part of their childhood. They remember those little times that, you did things with them. It's really important.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So I am going to put all the links to the things that you need links for in the show notes. So if anyone wants to know more about Shelley, then that's where you can go to find the links to go and connect with Shelley. And this has been a really interesting conversation. Thank you so much. I've thoroughly enjoyed it.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, Shelley.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Bravery podcast. Check out the show notes for all the links and information you need, including links to my social media and my website, so you can let me know what you thought of this episode. Please share with anyone else who you think would enjoy this. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next episode.